Okay.
Welcome to
evening news. No, go ahead.
Oh my God! I don't know what's
going on. Live.
Are we on? Are we broadcasting?
Yes.
Look, we can't start out
for you? every podcast with this confusion about whether the podcast has started.
Welcome to SuggestCast, Episode 1. Return of SuggestCast. Joining us tonight are Matt, Ben, Vincent, and Brian. Say hello, boys.
Whoa.
Hey. Hi, boys.
Hello.
And you just heard an introduction by our moderator, Lewis.
Yeah. So, what we're going to do tonight is first we're going to talk about the things that were suggested and what we did with those suggestions, and then we're going to give some more suggestions. So, to recap, the suggestions from last time were the new run of Prophet, Volume 1 of the new run of Prophet, Meanwhile by Jason Shiga, Gustafer Yellowgold, specifically the song I'm From the Sun, and Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
And what order are we, or which one are we going to address first?
I guess we'll start with Prophet, since that's the one I said first.
Okay.
All right. So which of us have actually read that by now?
I read Volume 1.
I also read Volume 1.
I did not read any of it.
And Matt, you were the one who suggested it. You've read it.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe Matt, if you give us a one-sentence reminder of what your suggestion was, or why you suggested it.
Fish out of water storytelling done in an incredibly fish out of water sort of experience for a normal person.
Let me say something right now that's going to be very important for the audience. And it's that I don't give a shit about spoiling things for you. I think in discussing things, we're going to be listing a lot of spoilers.
I should say I care about spoilers in general, but the way that applies here is that I think we should make our audience aware that they will hear spoilers if they keep listening.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay.
There's no need to be vulgar about it. You sounded so angry when you said that. Like, listen up, audience. I don't care about it.
Vincent was going to tell us that comic books are bullshit or whatever, just start off the bat. But
actually, Vincent, when we left off last time, you had some hostile things to say about comics as a medium. Did Prophet exceed your extremely low expectations?
It did. I would not describe Prophet as just what was the phrase I used? Stupid fucking comic or fucking whatever I said. Yeah. I don't think Prophet was that. I was pleasantly surprised. It was not just a run of the mill comic book that was marginally better. What I was going to ask Matt, and the reason why I brought up the spoiler issue is because when it was suggested, he mentioned it's this. You don't know what's going on, and then you're trying to figure it out at the same time as the protagonist, and at the end there's a twist. I wasn't sure what the twist was that he was talking about in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a twist about like 3 issues into that 6-issue trade paperback.
Right. Well, I guess I'm working off sort of like in the second volume it's explained more thoroughly, but that guy that jumps out of the corpse.
He has his foot in the door. Now we have to read the second volume.
You don't have to.
I might seek it out, but it is okay for you to give full spoilers here.
The twist is that old guy who jumps out of the corpse and then just slaughters everybody else that was important in that story that you just read.
Yeah.
That's the main character. That's the John Prophet that is the hero of the previous war, and he's here to fight another one. And then the rest of the series seems to sort of really focus on him.
I thought that was implied.
Well, I mean, that's not discarding the characters we've seen before as much as you're suggesting, since up until then we've seen a lot of different clones of the same guy, and now we're seeing the one they're all based on.
Yeah, he's the great John Prophet.
It's not that we were attached to those particular John Prophets who were killed.
They did a much better job making you care about them than some of the other prophets, but yeah.
Yeah, well, not the first one. Like, the one from the very first issue you follow for quite a while.
Yeah.
Okay. So, to the people who are watching this and presumably haven't yet read Prophet, the last 3 minutes probably didn't make a lot of sense.
So we suggest that you go read it.
And then, listen again.
Hang on. We suggested that they read it last time. If they didn't read it by now, it's their own damn fault.
Yeah, if you didn't read that before coming here and listening to episode 1, I don't know what to tell you.
What more can we do?
Hero.
Honestly. I thought it did a pretty good job of what Matt suggested it for. I thought it was interesting. It did have an alien world that was fairly different from typical sci-fi futuristic scenarios or alien scenarios. It was a complicated world that wasn't fully explained. I don't think it's the best example of what Matt was using it as an example of, and
throwing the reader in without really knowing what's going on.
Yes, and without fully explaining how everything works and what's going on. To no one's surprise, I would suggest that Aeon Flux, the TV series, probably does a better job of it.
I like that you think that's so obvious that literally no one will be surprised that that's what you say.
That is completely unsurprising to me, but you have to remember that a lot of our viewers might not be as familiar with our individual preferences.
Or with Aeon Flux.
Well, then I'll say...
Or with your particular history with Aeon Flux, Vincent, and you saw it in an unusual way that enhanced that effect you're talking about.
Did you see it?
No.
Were you wearing 3D glasses?
I don't believe so. What Ben's referring to is that when Aeon Flux was shown on liquid television in short segments, I was never able to catch liquid television at regular hours such that I could see the episodes in order. And so I saw all the Aeon Flux segments out of order and was totally confused about how they went together. And I thought at some point I had it all figured out. And then when I eventually saw them all played in order, I realized I had it all wrong.
Wait.
But I wasn't even referring to the liquid television shorts. I meant more the half-hour TV show when Aeon Flux got its own series on MTV.
Okay, sorry. So the shorts, there's an order that you can watch them in that makes sense. The episodes, there's no sense to you can watch them in any order. It's not going to make any more sense to you.
Right. I don't think there's any continuity between the episodes.
Yeah. Okay. I like the one where she finds a baby in a cave and then her mystic son becomes a baseball player.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That was a good episode. Spoiler warning.
Chronophagia, I think that one's called. Although I could be totally wrong because a lot of times the title.
Yeah.
You're right, 3D glasses.
Do you want to defend that Prophet is better at the fish out of water or learn about the world as you go storytelling than literally everything else, or? That's what you said last time, right? Was this is literally the absolute best thing in the world at doing that?
Me? No, I
was kidding.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I think it's a particularly good genre and setting for getting that effect. And I'm a bit of a fan of post-human sci-fi stuff in general, so
what was the
I was favorably disposed towards this work, but in a lot of cases, sci-fi like that gets kind of info-dumpy. When you remove most of the exposition, you are left with this thing that the reader is just trying to make sense of and lacks the context for.
So, Vincent and Ben, can each of you say what the most startling revelation that you sort of discovered, what was the most striking moment of this effect?
Let's see, I suppose, the main thing is, for me, was finding out what his mission was when he gets onto the God satellite, and he's been summoned there to activate the sleeping Earth Empire in the form of clones of him all over the galaxy. And now, I've been saying clones, but they are physically different from each other, one has a tail and so on.
Yeah, some of them are female
Right. I'm not
But they're all
entirely
referred to
sure
as
how
mother.
that all works, like whether clone is the right word to use, but yeah, the
Well,
idea. There are a bunch of John Prophets in somewhat different bodies.
Yeah, in this future, the only humanity left alive are clones of John Prophet and
Well, there's also
mothers. Yeah, who are like these shrunken telepathic dwarfs that control spaceships.
they're Modocs.
Yeah, Modocs, basically.
I don't know. I was really struck by anything. Like, I mean, that's one of the reasons I was confused about what was supposed to be the twist. Was that I didn't find any part of it more like strange and unexplained than the rest of it. Like, it kind of starts out like you have no clue what's going on, and you don't really get too far out of that. I mean, you learn what in a small way what's going on, but the larger picture is still fairly well hidden. I would say what I thought was most notable was just that I thought it was kind of fucked up by excessive narration, which is one solid reason why Flux not only does what this is doing better, but it's just a better work overall. And I look at stuff like right at the beginning, you've got images of some alien animal walking around the landscape, and then this mechanism drilling up to the surface. I mean, I can hold it up to the camera, but I don't think that's going to help anyone get an actual image of it. But then you've got this narration box. Through the arid landscape, though the arid landscape has given up no prey, something else stirs beneath its feet. But we can see it in the damn picture. Like, you look at the picture, and it's just telling you what you can already see.
And the narration around there also gives you the local name for this animal you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Which John would not know at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask this though. So the TV show Lost is a cultural reference point for mysteries within mysteries that even when you resolve them, you don't understand anything more. Like you start off feeling at sea, and then
like
you
a different
feeling
thing
at
in
sea
this.
the whole time. What?
I don't.
I mean, it's not so much mysteries in mystery, but just like, well, that's really weird. It's not really a mystery.
Can anybody translate what Matt just said into full sentences?
No, that's going to be
No,
another
but-
mystery.
Yeah, he said Miss is tree. It's tree.
I didn't say repeat it.
Yeah, and I think I would elaborate on that I felt with this a sense that the authors do have a coherent idea of what's going on.
Okay.
Apparently Lost, that did not turn out to be the case.
Yeah, it's not mysteries within mysteries in Prophet. It's just an entirely alien world that you find out small pieces of. Yeah, it's not like Lost where, one season, maybe it's they're in hell, and maybe it's aliens, and maybe it's in some kid's imagination, maybe it's magic.
Okay.
It's fairly clear here what's going on. Like, there's this space guy, and he's awakened for a mission, and it turns out his mission is waking up a bunch of other space guys who are also him to rekindle the glory of the Earth Empire. Actually, there was something that struck me about the narration. You remember that part where he's traveling with that caravan, and he foils what he thinks is an assassination attempt on the king of the caravan, but it's actually some important king-killing ceremony that they have to sacrifice the old king to bring about the reign of the new. And this is explained in a narration box when he kills the assassin and then everybody's mad at him. He never really understands exactly what's going on there. I'm not sure that it should have been explained that fully to the readers.
I think generally it shouldn't have been. I think it's largely what happens when you don't have a single person authoring the comic. Like when you don't have the artist also as the writer, there's an excessive or a feeling of a need to explain everything, to put everything into words, because that's what the writer is working with, is just the words, and they don't understand the expressive capability of the images by themselves. I mean, I guess this is maybe not so much that as just maybe a bad choice on their part, but I think those first 2 or 3 issues could have been almost entirely wordless, and they would have just been better for it. I think when you're in an alien world like that and it's virtually silent, it just increases the sense of alienation and isolation, whereas even though the narrator's not part of the story, just having the narrator there explaining things kind of gives the feeling of there's someone there who understands and is holding your hand and explaining what's going on, whereas if you're just silent, watching this character silently traverse this world that he doesn't understand and you don't understand, it it helps to put you in the same state of mind as that person and feel alienated and alone.
Yeah, we probably could have been just shown what the Dull Mantle does for him.
That'd have been tough, because the Dull Mantle does a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, and it's not a concept that we have any preconceived ideas of going in.
So they would have.
It's this blue glowy thing that attaches to him and takes on useful forms.
Yeah.
We should probably transition to one of the other suggested materials, because otherwise it's going to be a several-hour-long vlog.
All right, which one would you like us to do next?
I think I said Meanwhile second.
All right, who here has read Meanwhile?
I have read it previously. I didn't read it at your suggestion.
Same deal.
Sorry?
Same deal. Same with me. I've read it before, but I didn't read it again.
And
all right, so
is mute and has did not read it.
All right, so should we skip that one then?
We could say. I don't know that we have anything more to say about it because I don't remember whether
we discussed it to some extent last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. It's probably more interesting as a book than as an iPhone application or whatever.
Yeah, I think you lose something if you're not doing it with the actual physical book.
Especially
what you lose there is the surprise at the sort of character of interactivity that emerges from it.
Right. The iPhone is just pushing buttons, and it's not, it's fun, but it's not the same.
Yeah, you can zoom out in it to see all the panels just arranged in this two-dimensional space.
Right.
Which is neat, but that's not how you're experiencing it when you read through.
Wow.
Yeah, there's nothing. It didn't take any particular sort of ingenuity to make essentially a video game version of Meanwhile. I mean, that anyone could have figured that out. What's interesting about the book is
I don't think we should completely diminish the coding efforts of Andrew Plotkin there.
So it's like a motion comic?
Not really. It's
More
the
of a
panels themselves don't have animation in them.
It's a choose-your-own-adventure comic.
Well, yeah, except that choose-your-own-adventure implies, I think I said this last time, but when I think choose-your-own-adventure, I think something that I can easily and trivially read all of just by doing the depth-first search traversal.
Let me read. But I don't really need to go back to. But I've not used the app version of it, so I guess I don't mean to denounce that in particular. It may have been done very well. What I mean is the general idea of going through the story and needing to do certain things before other things is not hard to implement in a computer game, in a text adventure or whatever. That's not a difficult thing to do. It was interesting the way that it was accomplished within the book by having very similar pages, so that you, in subsequent readings, you might not even realize that you've gone to a different page than you've seen before because they're very similar and you have to do things in a certain order in order to achieve a different result. That kind of the actual application may have adapted the book in an ingenious way. I don't know, but I'm just saying in general, what he did in the book would not have been difficult to do as a video game in the first instance.
Right, because video games track the state, and so you can have things in the background that aren't part of the immediate manifestation, but books, it's much harder to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, especially since some of our readers might be familiar with some later choose-your-own-adventure books that try to explicitly introduce state tracking, where they tell you, okay, now you have the magic amulet, write that down, remember it. Then later there's a choice that says, like, turn to page 15 here only if you've got the magic amulet. This doesn't do any of that. It always just presents you with the set of next panels that you can go to by a series of paths that you follow.
This is a much better solution to that problem than having you take notes while you read.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should either then talk about whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow or Gustafer Yellowgold.
Let's do Gustafer Yellowgold just so that we aren't doing all the comics in a row.
Okay.
So who listened to what in terms of Gustafer Yellowgold?
I listened to a bunch of the songs that were freely available online.
I listened to Kakenstein and half of several other songs that were not as good as Kakenstein.
Wait, did you even listen to all of I'm from the Sun?
No, I only listened to half of that.
You should... Well, I guess it's too late to suggest this now, but I listened to all of that one, and I'm glad I did.
Okay. I don't know why, but Kakenstein just grabbed me from, like, the first, and then it kept me there. And the other ones, I was like, I got distracted halfway through.
Kakenstein was interesting in that it's sort of a metaphor for parenting, isn't it?
Well, I mean, as is the Frankenstein's monster, and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, since that Gustafer Yellowgold brings this new life into the world to have as a companion, but it's all rowdy and wants to just party all the time, and he kind of regrets that and wants to put the recipe away.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's clearly a metaphor for having children.
That's not necessarily...
He kills Kakenstein at the end, doesn't he?
Well, he smushed...
Well, he has to. Every party must end.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I thought that Kakenstein was a good illustration of some of what Vincent was saying about the series, namely that it sort of addressed very, like, what you might think of as... it's going to be weird to describe one thing about a cake robot as having serious themes, but, like, there's, like...
I don't think that's weird.
Okay. I think most people would think that cake robot and serious don't go together, but that's...
Okay, well, I think those people are wrong.
Well, and then I think that's part of what Vincent was saying, was it seems like it's going to be this sort of, like, very facile children's work, but then, like, it addresses things like being disappointed in how things are turning out and, like, having to, like, drastically end them or whatever. Like, it winds up being a bit sort of a juxtaposition of sort of, like, more adult themes in these, like, very childlike imagery.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly negative take on the idea of being a wacky party animal.
You have cupcake babies that fly out all over the place and attack people.
Yeah, I didn't find those as artistically compelling.
As cake.
I'm not sure what themes we were meant to take from that.
You don't see a connection there with the cupcake children?
Oh,
No, are they supposed to be like Guster's grandkids?
Yeah, and he hates them, too.
You should be trying to spoil them.
Yeah, I think just mentioning cupcake babies is pretty much a big spoiler.
We did say that we're not going to shy away from spoilers here.
Yeah.
Maybe just call this spoiler cast.
Yeah, Kaiser Soze was played by Kevin Spacey or whatever.
Or was he? I might be the only one who didn't listen to Kakenstein.
I didn't listen to Kakenstein.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Well, we could talk some more about I'm from the Sun.
You guys should talk about that one.
Which was actually different from what I was expecting, given how you talked about it last time, Vincent. I think you described the themes of death as being just kind of put in there, kind of matter of fact, into this song that's otherwise fairly happy about him being from the sun and all. But to me, the whole thing seemed kind of melancholy.
He doesn't seem to enjoy being from the sun.
Melancholy is Vincent's version of happy, though, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't killing himself. What? I don't understand.
Right, he isn't killing himself. But he is going to die. That's made pretty clear.
Yeah.
A blip line is, "You'll watch my soul rise up into oblivion."
Mm.
What you're describing about it now reminds me of a movie I haven't seen called The Odd Life of Timothy Green.
I've never heard of that movie.
It's about these parents who want a kid and they can't have one, and they bury their wish list about what their child would be like, and a plant child is born, and they have like leaves on their ankles, and every time one of the wishes on the wish list gets crossed off, like winning the championship game or whatever, a leaf falls off, and then the kid's gonna die when all the leaves are gone.
Wow.
Messed up, like, family movie premise.
Nice.
They should have put one of their wishes on the list being that he would live forever.
Yeah. They foolishly did not put immortal child on their wish list.
They didn't.
That's like the top of my list.
Did they at least put "take care of us in our old age" on the list?
No, because I should
That's a reasonable one to put.
listen to a podcast about it. That's really my only access to this movie.
They were all things that could be immediately accomplished by a 5-year-old child.
I think the kid wound up like being born at age 12 or something, but yeah. He helped them invent a pencil out of leaves that would save the pencil factory that was the financial base of their town.
Wow.
That was one of their hopes that their child.
I think the whole road like saves the city.
We have to have a kid to save the pencil factory.
Must be great at inventing pencils out of leaves.
This movie sounds so fascinating.
Yeah, if they had a real kid, they'd be like, "You're going to pencil college, whether you like it or not."
But it's established in the movie apparently from the very first. Like they know that this kid's gonna die. Like when he does the 11 things they wrote down.
And they don't encourage him to change course.
Yeah.
Maybe school's not for you, son.
It's like
it's just supposed to be like about the gift of like you appreciate the gift while you got it, and then it's gone.
Pencil factory. Is it
I'd like
pencil?
for you to be able to stay around, son, but the only way that we can save the pencil factory is if we lose your last leaf.
Yeah.
Pencil factory sun leaf. It's not the Odd Life of Timothy Green, is it?
That's what yeah.
Oh, wow.
He tricked us by telling us the title before he began any discussion of it.
It was a good trick.
That's a good trick, and I always fall for that one.
It does make you guessing it a little bit less impressive, I guess.
No, I skipped a thing.
trying to politely say I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Yes,
Indeed.
listen to our crack team of suggesters and reviewers.
I did not mean to derail our discussion of Gustafer Yellowgold, which I would say of the things I checked out from our thing, that might be the only one I actually checked out, because it was the one that I hadn't seen and got around to doing. But I didn't even do it right, but I did. I love that Kakenstein song.
Alright, so it wasn't a totally wasted suggestion.
No, and I felt like it really resonated with the way you described it.
What do you think about that, Ben? You didn't like my description of I'm from the sun, but from what you listen to in general, do you think that...
Well, I did think that...
The whole song, why did you say that?
Well, I did think that the Gustafer Yellowgold stuff I listened to in general had that property you were talking about of introducing death themes in an unusual way for children's songs.
Okay.
Actually, some of them seem to be just kind of light absurdism that didn't have any of that. Like the one about how his eel Slim keeps getting into his socks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like wall-to-wall death.
Right. No, I mean it's not even all songs that have some death in them.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, but Ben, don't you think that the sock is a metaphor for the temporariness of human existence?
I wasn't sure what the sock was a metaphor for. Maybe I need to listen to that song a few more times.
Yeah, or just Kakenstein over and over again.
Yeah, I do honestly think that these songs reward a deeper listening.
It's worth noting that the song about Slim getting into his socks comes from the album The Infinity Sock, which is about a sock that goes on forever. So it's definitely, there's more going on with socks in there than you might guess from listening to that.
Interesting.
That song in isolation.
All the socks that were shown in the video for that one looked finite.
I think
but appearances can be deceiving.
They can. Yeah. That's why I made sure to say they looked finite.
Maybe it was like a Klein sock or a Mobius sock or something, so it's infinite.
Very clearly pictured as being a variety of different kinds of socks.
Yeah, I could use some more crew socks that last longer.
I just bought some new socks today.
Well, there you go. If you had an infinity sock, you could just, snip off a length of it, sew up the end, and you'd have as many socks as your heart desired.
That really blows my mind.
All right, so I guess we should talk about whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow?
Right. Which of us?
I wanted to say something about Gustafer Yellowgold.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
but I'm not sure if we'll go through given the quality of my connection.
You're fine right now.
The impression. I'm not saying that this is what Vincent said about it, but the impression that I got about the Gustafer Yellowgold stuff was that it wouldn't be creepy or weird when he started talking about death, but it totally was. I think it's because
it was a little weird.
It's like maybe it's because I knew it was coming, but maybe it's something about the way that it's drawn. But like Gustafer Yellowgold's eyes, they're very often like dead center, which is a weird thing for your eyes to be, especially in a cartoon.
He does have a bit of an unnerving expression to him.
And the sort of like wavering, like frail voice of the singer kind of gets to me that way too. Like he's really thought about this. Anyway, okay, Man of Tomorrow.
So prediction was that Vincent would absolutely hate this comic. But fortunately, the goal was not to recommend comics that Vincent would like, but comics that are important as reference points, or should be important reference points.
Right. SuggestCast is not about singling out the things that we think are best.
I think whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow would serve as a good reference point for comics that I would describe as stupid fucking comics, in that they are bad comics that are marginally better written than the average monthly superhero comic, but still not worth reading, terrible and stupid comics.
Okay, Vincent, what about the scene where Crypto dies? Can you honestly say that you did not cry?
I don't think I had any emotion stirred at all, and I'm an easy target. I mean, I cry all the time about anything. I love to be moved by stuff.
Sorry.
I let myself go.
Vincent, what about the scene where Bizarro commits suicide?
Yeah,
all these spoilers.
I read this today, and like those scenes didn't affect me at all either. Like the fact that it's drawn in sort of like the campy Silver Age style just made it immediately a joke to me. Like.
Okay, you're calling that campy, but it was by the same guy who was doing it during those classic Silver Age times. He's not doing this as like a parody.
I know, but I can't help but see it
later
that way.
He wrote Supreme.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like it could only be excusable if he was making fun of bad comics. Well, I mean, here, when the reporter comes to Lois Lane's house. And the dialogue, it's Mrs. Lois Elliott now. Apparently, anyway, come in. You must be Tim Crane from The Planet.
Right. Yeah, it's still written exactly like a Silver Age comic.
Oh, that's right.
Comic.
Is it still convenient to do the interview with you for our Superman Memorial Edition? Apparently, they hadn't discussed before. Done for.
It has some good drawing style, though. That coffee mug.
Wait, so let me explain something important about this was a Silver Age story. This was, in a certain sense, the capstone, the last Silver Age story that got to be told, because Alan Moore was told, look, we're about to do this massive continuity reboot of Crisis on Infinite Earths. You can go nuts and do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they were about to put away this toy box full of these great concepts from the Silver Age, and Alan Moore wanted to bring them all out and have one last big old-school Superman party.
So he came up with this great plot. What if a bunch of stupid shit happened for no reason?
It happened because Mr. Mixel-Pitslick was...
because he decided to be
evil.
Crazy, and also he's a lot more powerful than I guess they thought he was before when he was tricked. And
like a fifth-dimensional sorcerer, did you honestly think he would resemble a funny little man in a derby hat?
Yeah, and then he gets defeated in like 15 seconds because he gets outwitted by Superman.
Superman is very smart.
He was always the immensely powerful. It's just that because he was like a weird trickster dude, he never had more interest in doing anything than mildly harassing people.
Yeah, I know. He created Kingdom. What was it? What was the one where the whole planet was remade in the Joker's image?
I don't know that one. That sounds awesome, though.
Oh, yeah, where the Joker got his powers, but then...
Yeah, Mr. Mixel-Pluggle he's like superpower. He's like the goddamn Scarlet Witch, where he can do anything he wants when the plot requires it. Anyway...
Like you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Anyway, here's the best part of it, though. Does anyone have a copy of it in front of them right now?
You do.
I do not. My copy is in California.
Yeah,
all right, I'm going to trust our viewers are all holding their own copy of it right now. And I'm going to entreat them to turn to page 40. Now, at this point, Superman and some of his friends have been trapped by Brainiac-controlled Lex Luthor and some other supervillains who are conspiring to kill Superman. And they're all trapped in this force field that can't seem to be destroyed. And so Earth's other heroes have heard of the plight, and they're coming to the rescue. No! There are apparently only 6 of them who could be bothered to come out to try to take the force field. 2 of whom are Batman and Robin, who are banging on the force field with sticks.
That's right. That got me good.
Now,
bat sticks.
In fairness, I'm sure that Batman had figured out the resonant frequency and knew how often to hit with the stick to make it shatter itself or whatever.
Now, both Batman...
That's a very Silver Age Batman thing to do.
They are both hitting the force field with sticks. I imagine Batman was the first one to grab a stick and start banging at it. At some point, he turned and looked at Robin and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Grab your stick and get over here."
When you say sticks, what do you mean? Are these
Can you hold up the comic?
Are they picking up branches off the ground? Are these batons?
I was thinking like a vampire stake or something.
Can you hold up the comic?
Oh wow, those are sticks, all right.
Or at least like a torch.
Yeah, Lewis, defend those sticks.
Right.
Okay. But here's an important part of why I think it's such an important comic book.
Because it has in character for the Batman of that era.
Can we keep making fun of the plot for a little bit before you tell us why it's important?
Sorry.
Sure.
Now, Mr. Mixel-Pluggle-Diggle-Niggle he's like all powerful, right? He can essentially do whatever he wants.
More or less.
Why can't he kill Superman?
Because he wants to torment him first.
No, he's trying to kill him by shooting lasers at him, and he just keeps missing.
Because of Earth's yellow sun.
Superman is very good at dodging.
The sun is getting in Mr. McFeely's eyes.
But he can just make Superman not exist, right?
Probably.
I mean, but this is Vincent. This is why I think you don't understand the game Mind Chess.
I'm not the one. Okay.
There's no honor in that victory.
But Mr. Mixel Gajiggle doesn't care about honor. He just became super evil.
Look, he doesn't want Superman to go away. He wants to kill Superman. He wants to make Superman suffer.
I'm going to defend this in that Mr. Mixie Spitlick is, in addition to being all-powerful, extremely bored. And it would be even more boring if he just killed him. Like, he wants to try and use, like,
lightning
mortal level aiming.
Of pointing at him and then having him die after a laser hits him, not him just automatically dying. Which is right. Even accepting the explanation, that's what we've got is a character whose motivations were invented solely for the purpose of creating this stupid story. Okay, and I wanted to talk a lot more about Batman and his sticks. I actually was going on earlier today, which takes, hour and a half. And the whole time in my mind, I'm running through this whole monologue about how stupid it is that Batman is beating on that force field with a stick, but I guess...
I never noticed that that's what he was doing, but I'm sure they're bat sticks, as Ben said.
I was assuming that you would be complaining about Brainiac after the force field generator thing gets destroyed. He sees that the force field is still there somehow, and he doesn't really even question this, just says, it must be fate.
Well,
it turns out there is a reason that it's still there, but Brainiac is... That does not seem in character to me.
Everyone had, for no clear reason, just decided to accept that fate had taken over and started making things happen.
Well, people were coming from the future because they knew that Superman was defeated this day.
Well, that happened only after they had already gathered at the Fortress of Solitude.
Right, which Superman does because it feels like they're the end times.
Starro committed suicide!
Well, it wasn't just that. It was his friends being in actual danger now, and before it was like play danger.
Oh, and so apparently in the future, the lore that has existed is that Superman was defeated by his greatest foe. No more details.
Right. So, well, okay, to be fair, the Legion of Superheroes future then had records like that of history. They were never very precise.
I'll say this, though, about the book, is that if you were a fan of this type of comic, then this is exactly how you would want it to end.
Yeah.
And just look at your face. So sad.
You can tell that they're sad because that's the face that they're making.
Yeah, it's like he's lamenting something when he makes that face.
Okay, but let's also talk about the ultimate end of the story.
Which is
I don't like the ultimate end of the story.
And he had
not the current panel, Ben.
From a mile away. Like, I knew it from the first time I saw Mr. what's his name.
You know what's weird about that, though? In the future, they still think that Superman died back in the Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
That his kid must have never been revealed to be his son.
Yeah.
I guess...
No, what's weird about is that it had been previously established in the comics that gold kryptonite not only removes a Kryptonian superpowers permanently, but it removes them from any offspring they're going to have as well.
Oh, really?
And this comic flies completely in the face of that.
Wait, I got the impression...
I just wanted to say that.
I got the impression that Lois Lane was just lying about him doing that.
Yeah, that he still does have superpowers, and that he just chooses not to help humanity because he's sick of it.
Oh, that's a really interesting interpretation of it. I always took it to be that he, in fact, used the yellow kryptonite and just didn't die.
Unless Ben is totally lying, as he tends to do about that gold kryptonite that I'm not sure about.
Well, I guess I'm pretty sure about this.
Don't care that much about continuity.
I guess I took
it when it comes to kryptonite colors.
I guess saying it's a lie is probably... I think that's a better interpretation, but maybe... I mean, I don't know the comics and the characters as well as anyone else here, I guess. but it would have just been so stupid for him to do that it's a lot better if it's just part of the lie that she's already telling. I mean, everything else she's telling about this new husband and everything is all a lie. Superman dying is a lie. Why not just say this stupid thing about him deliberately losing his powers is a lie too?
Oh, also, Superman...
No, it makes sense he would have done that to atone because he'd broken his oath to not kill.
That doesn't atone for anything. He loses his powers, just goes and lives a life without the responsibility of being Superman. Oh boy, I really took it on the chin back when I stopped saving the Earth every other week, you know.
Get out of jail free card. Also, I think it's also pretty interesting that he looks exactly like the comedian at the end of the book.
Yeah, that is kind of
It's another Alan Moore book that was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think that's an intended resemblance.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
And
I doubt it.
Before, but again, I don't know a heck of a lot about DC universe or continuity. There are more than 6 other superheroes in the universe, right?
Yeah, there are 8.
There's also other stuff going on in the universe that might need to be addressed. Like Green Lantern might have to be doing stuff.
Maybe the other superheroes were at other sides of the force field. It's very large.
They were looking for sticks.
Goes all the way around.
They couldn't find sticks, Vincent.
And they had borrowed.
Someone had to bring them to Batman. He probably keeps breaking them off against that.
Maybe their boss wouldn't let them out for their day job.
You know,
You
presumably.
know how hard it is to find a tree?
Presumably, Batman flew to the Arctic in some kind of vehicle that has weapons that would certainly be more powerful than the stick he's banging on the force field with.
He probably did in Wonder Woman's invisible jet.
He probably thought that the force field was like Earth 1's Green Lantern, weak only to wood.
I guess a serious explanation could have been, Superman gets in trouble every week, and he always fights his way out of it, so why would anyone assume that he was really in any mortal danger this time? Maybe that's a fair response to it.
But I don't think it would be, since it's stated frequently that this time is completely different and everyone knew it.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the cover of the book here, and it shows a whole bunch of superheroes that didn't lift a finger to help him out.
Like who?
I don't know, because I don't know who they are.
Describe them. Describe their costumes and apparent super abilities.
Booster Gold.
Okay, so who was there? Wonder Woman was there. Batman and Robin were there. Martian Manhunter was there, right?
Probably.
Who else was there?
Aquaman? Was Aquaman there?
No.
See Aquaman on the cover.
Why not?
I don't know. Who's the guy who looks like Robin Hood?
Green Arrow.
Arrow?
Okay, and somebody with hawk wings? Like
Hawkman.
Hawkman.
Sure
Okay, how did you recognize that they were hawk wings specifically if you didn't know he was Hawkman?
Well, they got that like.
You recognized that superhero.
Sorry, but I want to return to the thing I was going to say before Vincent got upset that he didn't get to make more fun of the plot of the story. Which is why I think it's a really important story. And that has to do with the inscription that's on the very first page of the story, the little summary of what's going on and how it's an imaginary tale, but aren't they all? Because this comic occurred at a crucial time in the development of the modern notion of comic book continuity and canon. Because they had some sense of wanting to keep the stories consistent beforehand, but the way that they did it was they just invented alternate Earths every week to oh, that's why we don't have to worry about whatever happened last week. This is Earth 7 or whatever. And this comic was the capstone to that era. I think that's sort of what makes the Silver Age definitive, is this free play of you can just make up a new universe every week. Before there started to be a more dictatorial top-down, we have a continuity, here's how it works. Occasionally we'll do an Elseworlds that's a what if Superman had landed in Russia. But in general, we have one continuity and we stick with it.
Right, you don't get to just read an issue where Bizarro is on a whole planet of Bizarros that's shaped like a cube.
Yeah.
Although they do still do stuff like that all the time, right?
Yeah,
they have to
they don't really learn that much.
But it's also it also raises the question when he ends that by saying, aren't they all imaginary stories? So So people get really heated about whether or not Dumbledore is gay, right?
Right.
Because J.K. Rowling said that she intended him to be.
But it isn't explicitly written in any of the books.
But even if it is explicitly written, like, it's also fiction, right? Like, he's a made-up character. Like, I could just write a story in which he's not gay.
Why would you do that?
Right? Like, there's, like, this, like, what is this thing that we're after where we want to know, like, did it really happen this way in the story? That's, I think, a question that this weirdly wrestles with briefly before being very silly for a long time. And it is the thing that they did immediately before they decided to start taking continuity extremely seriously, which is what Crisis on Infinite Earths was designed to do, was get rid of all of the batshit insane, like, 15 million different worlds and collapse them down to one. Also, Bizarro commits suicide.
Those charges.
What? I also think the scene where Bizarro commits suicide is a really good stretch of the comic.
You think that's kind of a tearjerker?
No, it's not about it being a tearjerker. It's really about, like, what Alan Moore's attitude was about the Silver Age silliness. Because what he's doing with this comic, or at least trying to do, is take the Silver Age silliness stuff and give it some teeth. And so to start it with Bizarro, who is normally a comic relief, he's not even a villain, he's just comic relief. He's just goofy. Mm-hmm. Murdering a bunch of people and then committing suicide is like... To people who were reading it when it came out, it would have been fucking jarring as hell, right? And even now, because Bizarro is still so goofy, it's very jarring to read a comic in which Bizarro, like, got talked into realizing that if Superman's alive and he's supposed to be the opposite, that he needs to die.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I have no clue how I should feel about that because I don't read Superman comics, but I kind of have the feeling that because this wasn't part of an ongoing continuity, because everyone reading it knew, hey, Alan Moore's writing the last 2 issues of Superman ever, and it starts out by saying Superman's dead. I don't know that it should have been that big of a shock that stuff like that happened.
Fair enough.
But then what did Alan Moore done at that point? When did this come out?
He had done some, like, Green Lantern. I think he had done The Killing Joke for Batman by this point, but I don't know the exact chronology.
But he did Swamp Thing.
Yeah, he must have done his... Well, no, Swamp Thing was post-Silver Age.
So he probably wasn't, like, a household name among comics fans, right? Or was he?
Among comics fans or, like...
Yeah, among people who are reading comics, would they say, Alan Moore...
I mean, I think devotees would know who Alan Moore was at that point, but probably not casual fans. The way that casual fans now know who he is.
Okay, so they wouldn't necessarily see his name and say, oh, everything's going to get crazy. Batman's like beating on forests filled with sticks and everyone's going to die. It wouldn't have been a signal that everything was going to go haywire.
No, all right. In signal there would be that people probably knew about the build-up to the crisis.
And it is worth noting that the Superman comics, like, not long before whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow came out, weren't this Silver Age goofy stuff entirely. Like, this was kind of a retro look at Superman at the time.
I mean, but they were still kind of Silver Age goofy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure they were technically in the Silver Age. I'm not sure exactly how that time period is defined.
By its atomic number.
Okay. Anything left to say about whatever that stupid book was called?
Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
stick.
Yeah, I'd like to say, Vincent, I'm not joking about having cried at Crypto the Superdog's death scene. I think you should take that part seriously.
But Ben, were you joking when you asked him in apparent earnest whether he had cried after he told you the entire comic was bullshit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could believe that. I could see that in a better comic being an emotionally moving comic. I think that's a pretty reliably emotional, recurring thing in stories, like when the dog sacrifices itself.
What about when Atreyu loses his horse in the swamps of sadness?
I did not care about that.
Vincent?
That's pretty sad. I don't think I've cried at it. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, that horse, man. It's a good horse.
You really kind of brought us down with that one, Lewis.
Well, I was just trying to find out when you're saying all, like...
You're trying to calibrate how much we care about animals?
Yeah. Ben, do you know when this was written? You have it in front of you guys. Do you know when it was originally published? Because I could tell you what he had done by that point.
80s, I think.
86.
Sorry, what did you say?
86.
Oh, 86. Wow.
So 86 would be in the middle of his run on Swamp Thing, after Marvel Man and Miracle Man, after V for Vendetta, but before Watchmen, really. And before Batman the Killing Joke. And before From Hell.
Okay.
Okay, so you've done some notable stuff by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, a lot of it was stuff that people wouldn't necessarily have known about if they weren't hardcore comics people.
Right, but people would have known about, like, Kurt Swan, the artist.
Did he do the one about Joker's boner, too?
Yeah, no, that wasn't
That was later.
Oh, that's too bad.
And it wasn't him.
Who was it?
Some other guy. That's
Oh.
not him.
Yeah.
All right,
Alan Moore.
Alright, I think we've pretty much...
Who has suggestions?
Let's start with Brian.
Brock, have you been? Has it been told to you what the idea is of this podcast yet?
I think I've probably picked it up by now.
Everyone who's listening has been able to intuit what the purpose.
We're trying to suggest things that would be useful for people to have experienced. Not necessarily because they're good, but because there's something interesting about them that would make it useful to be able to refer back to it in other discussions.
Well, I don't know. Maybe, learn to program your VCR.
Alright, so that's Brian's suggestion.
It is?
Is it?
Okay, I guess it is.
Are you suggesting the
Is it a problem if I don't have a VCR?
VCR, or is there a book with the title "Learning to Program Your VCR"?
Or if you want to do some non-VCR suggestion, that's okay too. It's not too late.
Well, maybe something to do with like being able to pick out the right Tupperware.
Okay, how about some of the rest of us get suggestions first, and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, you think that we're trying to develop certain life skills that would be.
Yeah, we do not care at all about life skills. That's hard here.
Good.
Ben, why don't you go first with your suggestion and see if Brian...
All right, my suggestion, and this is a somewhat unconventional one for us, but my suggestion is the Season 5 episode of NewsRadio titled Boston.
Huh?
And why do you want to recommend that?
Okay, well, first of all, I know a lot of us are NewsRadio fans, so I should say first off, I'm not recommending this because I think it's especially good. Like, I don't think it would be in the top 10 best NewsRadio episodes. I'm not even sure that it would be the best episode of Season 5. But it has some very interesting parts in the A storyline that I think get overlooked for being a 5th season episode.
Season 5 is the last season, right?
Yeah, the one that's widely regarded as the worst.
Okay.
There's a storyline in it where Dave is trying to record a video with an inspirational message to give to his old English teacher to show to his class. And while he's trying to record this, his coworkers keep coming in, interrupting him, and criticizing his message, suggesting their own ideas based on their own horrible life experiences. And it does a really good job, better than nearly any episode I can think of exemplifying one of the NewsRadio themes, which is that these are all terrible, broken people.
Terrible, broken people. Boy, what a curious use of adjective, Ben. You don't have to have Jack's hand up your ass right now, do you?
And keep Jack
I'm
references.
not really sure how that applies here.
That's everything.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as well.
Jack describes as broken. It's broken stories and broken people.
It's not
I
a
hear the
broken
word.
story.
Well, maybe we're all
Add
high
it to the list.
schoolers, and we
Yeah,
just
look,
Sign
I
up.us.
think you should
Don't
watch
talk
this,
to me about broken things.
Look, Beth's speech to Dave alone is worth watching this episode for. It illuminates a lot about her character that I think will ring true for many of us.
wow.
Also, there's a B story about Lisa having a Boston accent, and that part is, not too good.
Does she have one for any other part of the series?
No, she was... Okay, so do you want spoilers?
Sure.
So she was
probably
from Boston originally, but she had gone to some effort to get rid of her accent. Max Lewis, played by John Lovitz, tries to help her correct her apparent sibilant ass. And in the course of removing that speech impediment, her Boston accent comes back, and she's unhappy about that.
I see.
Wow.
All right, that's an easy one. We can all watch that.
Yeah, I think it's even on YouTube if you don't, like me, own every NewsRadio DVD.
Okay. Vincent, what is your suggestion?
I said before, and I can't remember whether I said it during the podcast or after, but I said I was going to recommend Christopher Manson's Maze.
That's a good one.
Even though I think most people in the synod have already looked at it to some degree. Nevertheless,
I have. I don't think Lewis has, though.
Yeah, I have not.
I'm going to recommend it for one specific reason. I think there may be cause in the future to recommend it again for other reasons that make it noteworthy. But what I want to recommend it for now is nothing regarding. Well, first to explain what it is. It's a maze in the shape of a book, is how it's described. Every 2-page spread in the book represents a room in the maze, and then it has a text portion that describes, some interaction between some people who are going through the maze and a guide who is leading them through the maze, or perhaps leading them astray. And you're supposed to find clues in the picture and the text to find the shortest way to the center of the maze and then back out again. And there's also a riddle hidden in the rooms along the way to the center path, and then a solution to the riddle hidden inside the center room, all of which you're trying to work out. So it's a puzzle book, but I'm recommending at this point not for any reason to do with the puzzles, but for an aesthetic effect from the assembly of objects and things that Christopher Manson puts in the rooms. I think all the rooms in Maze, well, almost all the rooms, are just beautiful and so captivating, even if you can't figure out at all what the puzzle is or what's going on. I can... but there's not only to hold up the things now. The point is for people to go out
We'll
and
be
look.
seeing this.
It can be rooms where it's just, a set of objects laid out on a table, and yet he finds a way to do it so that instantly it gives the appearance that there's a puzzle there, that there's something meaningful there, that they're interesting and somehow sort of creepy and strange, in a way that I can't really explain how he does it, and I couldn't reproduce the effect. If I grabbed a bunch of stuff and arranged them on a desk, it would just look like junk on the desk, but he does a really good job of arranging strange items in his rooms so that maybe in a sense kind of like a room escape game where you open it up and you see some stuff around the room and instantly your mind starts working. What could these things mean? What could be hidden here? But I think he does a better job of it. So my recommendation is to take a look at the book Maze by Christopher Manson. Not necessarily to try to solve the puzzles at this point, but to just take a look at the images of the rooms that he's drawn. And Maze can be found entirely online, I believe.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that if you are able to get a paper copy instead, that would be pretty good, because the art looks great that way.
Okay. I'll go next. I'm going to recommend I think 4 music videos, all by Janelle Monae.
4 different things.
Well, I'm going to recommend the emotion pictures of Janelle Monae.
Alright.
He recommended a bunch of songs. I don't understand how I'm not allowed to recommend 4 music videos.
You're allowed.
Okay. Suggest, not recommend. They are the music video for Tightrope, the music video for Many Moons, the music video for Dance Apocalyptic, and the music video for Quen. I think it's got periods in there with featuring Erykah Badu. Janelle Monae is this amazing hip hop artist who does really classic sci-fi influenced short films as music videos. Think the way that Michael Jackson's Thriller was sort of like a little movie in addition to being just a music video, or even Moonwalker. Similarly, hers have way more narrative and world building than your typical music video, and I think as a result, she occupies a really interesting place culturally in terms of what her music videos are, because they're more than just a vehicle for promoting her songs. They are also little artistic expressions in and of themselves.
You know how Moonwalker contains the music video for Smooth Criminal? You know when Michael Jackson first walks into the speakeasy and he pulls out the coin and then throws it across the room and it goes into the jukebox and the music starts playing?
Yeah.
You know that they did that in one take?
What? No.
Okay.
All right, Matt, what is your recommendation?
I don't have one this week.
Okay. And Brian, would you like to try again, or do you want to keep going with life skills, or?
Oh, right. I just figured it out. Okay, so I figure a good thing to know is how to type upside down. Because when I grew up, I was like, man, what if I was upside down or something? And so I flipped my keyboard and I tried it, but it all didn't make sense. So I took all the keyboard pieces out and then just flipped them and then put them back in, so you have that upper curvature. It was one of those old school keyboards, and so I figured by doing that, I'd learn a different perspective, and I never learned how to type on a keyboard that was upside down, or not upside down but flipped. But I did gain some insight about the thing, and I figure my suggestion would be other people too.
You suggest trying to type with your keyboard rotated 180 degrees.
Yes.
Wait, so this isn't type while you are flipped upside down. This is not replicating that experience. It's type on a keyboard that's turned around.
Yeah, so just in case you're upside down,
but
you're able to, you're one step ahead of everybody else trying to do it.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm imagining correctly what it would mean for me to be upside down and trying to type, but it doesn't seem to me like that would be the same as if I turned a keyboard around and typed on that.
Well, if you did that, you'd be at least one step closer to be able to type upside down. You've got more practice than anybody else.
Ben, nobody challenged your recommendation. I think you should let Brian have his.
That's fair. All right, I will try that for next week.
I've already forgotten Ben's recommendation. Oh, it's
my recommendation is Boston. It's an episode of NewsRadio season.
Right, okay.
All right, I think we're
allowed to post longs.
Tupperware one instead.
No, it's too late. And we'll post links to all these things in the show notes.
Will we? Somebody will.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
On how to type on a keyboard that's been turned around. You're gonna figure out that one yourself, folks.
Post a picture of it.
I'll make. I could do that.
And let's have Matt have the final word for the episode. Matt, what's the final word?
Perfect.
Thanks everyone for listening.